You're standing on Saturn, not metaphorically, I mean literally on Saturn, with no air, no ground, just chaos. You're seconds away from giving up. And then, out of nowhere, you see a strawberry. It's perfect red, just sitting there like it doesn't know it's not supposed to exist. Now, what would you do? Would you eat it? Would you complete your spiral? Or more commonly, would you just pause? It's safe to assume that you won't eat it, and it definitely won't solve your crisis. But your brain will probably just pause. That pause, that's what this talk is about. Because sometimes when life feels like Saturn, it's not advice or productivity or a shopping addiction that pulls you out of the chaos. It's something small, random, and beautiful. Something that interrupts the breakdown. Which is why tiny moments, strawberries on Saturn, might be the real reason we survive. And authors were able to portray this idea better than anyone ever could. In the novel, The Little Prince, a pilot crash lands into a desert, about to die. He's thirsty, desperate. Yet, this tiny blonde kid shows up to him and says, "Draw me a sheep." Now, here's the thing. The kid doesn't help him survive. He doesn't give advice or try to fix things. He asks for something completely random. And somehow, that's the answer. This tiny request is the purest form of interruption. It doesn't make sense, but that's exactly why it works. Fiction helped us express those feelings. But psychology gave us the fancy terminology to prove its impact. You probably heard this phrase like a million times. I'm so burnt out. Burnout is when you reach your limit after experiencing too much stress or pressure. But right now, it's more important for us to talk about the physical damage that is caused by being burnt out. And here's the scary part. Prolonged stress actually shrinks your hippocampus, the part of your brain that's responsible for memory and emotional regulation. So that feeling during an exam or interview or speech where you forget everything you prepared for isn't exactly because you lack the preparation. It's just the more stressed you are, the less your brain can function properly. In fact, the American Psychological Association says that chronic stress ages your brain by 20 years. So the next time you're telling yourself you're doing great on a chaotic day, just remember, your brain is aging faster than you are, which is why sometimes when everything is going wrong, you don't need a big solution. You just need something small to break through, something that can reset your mind even just for a second. And actually, all you need to reset it is a moment, a pause. Matter of fact, just looking at a tree can lower your stress. Researchers found that looking at natural landscapes, even pictures of them, lowers your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, and boosts your mood. Meaning, nature isn't just aesthetically pleasing, it's a mental reset button. And get this, soft fascination like watching a sunset or listening to birds sing is proven to reduce mental fatigue and restore focus. So it's not about deep meditation. It's about giving your brain a moment of ease, even if it's just for a few seconds. And actually, those moments aren't rare. In fact, they happen to us more often than we realize. You've probably experienced it too. A moment that made you pause, laugh, or even breathe. So before we go on, I want you to think about a time like that. A moment that didn't solve your problem, it just helped you carry it better. Actually, I've experienced something like that not too long ago. A couple of months ago, my friend and I were in a panic mode. We needed to do something immediately. So we started going around school trying to find what we needed. So we burst open a music room door, and in front of us, a group of very tiny kids sitting on the floor, staring up at us. One of them gets up, points a finger at my friend, and says, Get the hell out of here. And obviously, that's the clean version of what was said. Let's just say he used language a 6-year-old should definitely not know. And yeah, we were panicking, but that moment, it threw us into a loop. It was so unexpected, so ridiculous, that we couldn't help but laugh. Suddenly, we weren't stressed anymore. We were in a mess, yes, but that sudden random moment shifted our mood entirely. It didn't fix anything, but it gave us that breath of humor that kept us going. And that is the power of an unexpected moment. You don't always need a solution, just a disruption. Now, psychologists always try to find names for observations. So they introduced us to micro-resilience. It's a term coined by psychologists to describe those little moments that make a huge difference in how we cope. Think of it like emotional CPR. It's not enough to get you through a marathon, but it's enough to give you one more breath. Micro-resilience moments can be as simple as looking at a squeaky bath duck that reminds you of your childhood. Or sometimes, it's something greater, something like Gen Z humor. The memes, the inside jokes, the TikToks that make zero sense unless you're chronically online, they seem ridiculous. But there's something fascinating happening here. Psychologists are starting to see these viral, nonsensical trends as a collective coping mechanism. When the world feels overwhelming, absurd humor acts like a pressure valve, a psychological interruption. It's micro-resilience, but through memes. So when you send your friend a video of an AI crying ketchup packet with emotional music in the background, you're not just being silly, you're offering them a pause. Now, whether the constant exposure to such content is healthy or not is not the topic of our conversation. However, it's important for us to realize that these moments that we, as our generation, we use them in order to basically just have an interruption from the chaos that we live in. And guess what? The Japanese author, Haruki Murakami, who was born in the 19th century, understood this very surprisingly well. And that is made very clear when you read his books, since he makes it his mission to use random nonsense occurrences constantly in his novels, like having it rain fish. There is specifically this one moment in his novel, Norwegian Woods, where the protagonist is trying to process his best friend's death and his love interests and other existential matters. And then he just pauses and stares at a tomato. Then the protagonist goes on and says, "I was staring at a tomato on my kitchen table for a very long time. The tomato never said anything, and I never said anything to the tomato. We just went on staring at each other across the table." Now, as much as your English teacher will try to make this tomato a symbol of some sort, there's really nothing symbolic about it. It's just a tomato. But that's what makes it powerful. It's that brief second where everything slows down and nothing is asked of you, and you don't have to be productive or healed or enlightened. You just stare at a tomato. That moment of clarity pushes you forward. So sometimes you don't need a grand theory or a life-changing breakthrough. Sometimes all you need is something small to hold on to, like a strawberry on Saturn. If you're tired, if your life feels cold and far and pointless, look for the little thing, the tiny flicker of beauty in the middle of the chaos. And if you're doing well enough to be okay, be someone's little thing. Send a message, make a joke, give out strawberries, be the glitch in their spiral. Because beauty doesn't have to be logical. It just has to show up right when someone's about to give up. Thank you.